Hello friends, welcome to the Point. In today's session, let's discuss about the early medieval India. So after the death of Harsha, there was no political unity in North India for about 5 centuries, and the country was split up into a number of states, and those states, they were constantly fighting and they were changing their frontiers. The important kingdoms in North India were Kashmir, Gandhara, Sindh, Gujarat, Kannauj, Ajmer, Malwa, Bengal and Assam. And in the early 8th century, Kashmir was dominant, and then there emerged the Palas of Bengal, and their rule was supreme till the Pratiharas became the most powerful rulers of North India. But in the 10th century, the Rashtrakutas of Deccan, they tried to extend their power in North India, but ultimately they failed in their attempt. Rajput kingdoms. The dominance of the Rajputs, it began from 7th and 8th centuries, and it lasted till the Muslim conquest in 12th century. And even after that, many Rajput states, they continued to survive for a long time. So during the period of Muslim aggression, the Rajputs were the main defenders of the Hindu religion and culture. And apart from this, there were several theories about the origin of Rajputs. So they were considered as the descendants of the foreign invaders and the Indian Kshatriyas. The foreign invaders, they were Indianized and they absorbed into the Indian society. Many legends of Rajputs, they support this theory, and therefore it is said that the diverse elements it constitutes in the shaping of Rajput clan, and they became homogeneous by constant intermarriage and by adopting common customs. They made war as their chief occupation. So the trade and agriculture also prospered during the Rajput times, and the Arab travelers, they refer to the prosperity of the land and the great trade of the cities. Rajputs, they also built strong forts. The Gurjara Pratiharas, they were the earliest of Rajput rulers, and its first great leader was Harishchandra. Harishchandra, he conquered extensive territories in Rajputana and ruled with his capital at Binmal. The Gurjaras were in different branches. One branch ruled Gujarat and the another ruled at Avanti. The Pratiharas involved themselves in a 3-cornered contest with the Palas of Bengal and the Rashtrakutas of Deccan. And later these Pratiharas, they became weak. The Chauhans, the most valiant of the Rajput races, they ruled Ajmer. And Vigraharaj, he was the most important king who occupied Delhi. And therefore the Chauhans faced the onslaught of the Muslims under Muhammad of Ghori. The Paramaras were also important Rajput rulers of this period, and the most important king was Bhoja. His military conquest as well as cultural contributions, it remained notable in the history of Rajputs. Constant fighting, it weakened the Rajputs, and they also never united against a common enemy. There was a lack of political foresight, and a constant rivalries prevented and combined opposition to Muslim invaders. Arab conquest of Sindh. The religion Islam, it was born at Mecca in Arabia, and its founder was Prophet Muhammad. But his teachings made the wealthy people of Mecca his enemies, and therefore he migrated to Medina in 622 AD, which was the starting point of Muslim calendar and the Muslim era called Hijra. And after 8 years, he returned to Mecca with his followers, and he died in 632 AD. The followers of Muhammad, they set up an empire called the Caliphate Empire. The Umayyads and the Abbasids, they were called Caliphs. They expanded their rule by conquest, and they spread their religion called Islam. In 712 AD, Muhammad bin Qasim, he invaded Sindh, and he was the commander of Umayyad kingdom. Qasim defeated Dahir, and Dahir was the ruler of Sindh and killed him in a well contested battle. And the capital of Dahir, Aror, it was captured by Muhammad bin Qasim. The people of Sindh, they were given the status of jimmis, that means protected subjects, and there was no interference in the lives and property of the people. And very soon Qasim was recalled by the Caliph. And after this the Sindh continued to be under the Arabs, but the Muslims, they were not able to expand their authority further into India due to the presence of the powerful Pratihara kingdom in western India. The conquest of the Sindh, it did not lead to further conquest immediately, and it had resulted in the diffusion of Indian culture in the abroad. Many Arab travelers, they visited the Sindh. Indian medicine and astronomy, they were carried to far off lands through the Arabs. The Indian numerals in Arabic form, it went to Europe through them. And Sindh, it was a part of Arab Empire, and it is said to be the inflow of Indian knowledge. Muhammad of Ghazni and his invasions. So by the end of 9th century, the Abbasid Caliphate, it declined completely, and the Turkish governors, they established independent kingdoms, and the Caliph became only a ritual authority, and one among them was Alptigin, whose capital was Ghazni, and his successor and son-in-law Sabuktigin, he wanted to conquer India from the northwest, and he succeeded in capturing Peshawar from Jayapala, but his raids did not produce a lasting effect, and he was succeeded by his son called Muhammad of Ghazni. Muhammad is said to have made 17 raids into India, and at that time North India was divided into a number of Hindu states. On the frontier of India there existed Hindu Shahi kingdom, which extended from the Punjab to Kabul. The initial raids, they were against the Hindu Shahi kingdom, in which its king Jayapala was defeated in 1001, and after his defeat Jayapala immolated himself because he thought that his defeat was a disgrace. And later on Jayapala's successor Anandapala, he fought against Muhammad, but he was also defeated in the battle of Vaihind, the Hind Shahi capital near Peshawar in 1008. So in this battle Anandapala, he was supported by the rulers of Kannauj and Rajasthan, and as a result of his victory at Vaihind, Muhammad extended his rule over most of the Punjab. The subsequent raids of Muhammad into India were aimed at plundering the rich temples and cities of northern India, and in 1011 he raided Nagarkot in Punjab hills and Taneshwar near Delhi. In 1018 Muhammad plundered the holy city of Mathura, and he also attacked Kannauj. The ruler of Kannauj at that time was Rajyapala, and he abandoned Kannauj and later died. And after this Muhammad returned via Kalinjar with fabulous riches, and his next important raid was against Gujarat. In 1024 Muhammad marched from Multan across Rajputana. He defeated Solanki king called Bhimadeva I. He plundered Anhilwad and sacked the famous temple of Somanatha, and then he returned through the Sindh desert, and this was his last campaign in India, and Muhammad died in 1030 AD. Muhammad was not only a mere raider and plunderer of the wealth. He built a wide empire from Punjab in the east to Caspian Sea on the west. The Ghaznavid Empire roughly included Persia, Transoxania, Afghanistan and Punjab. Muhammad was considered a hero of Islam by medieval historians. He also patronized art and literature. Firdausi was the poet laureate in the court of Muhammad, and he was the author of Shah Namah. Al-Biruni, he stayed in Muhammad's court and wrote the famous Kitab-i-Hind. It was an account on India. The Hindu Shahi kingdom, it was guarding the gates of India against foreign invaders, but Muhammad destroyed it. Muhammad drained the resources of India by a repeated raids and deprived India of her manpower. The exhaustion of India's economic resource and manpower had its adverse effect on the political future of India. So after the destruction of the Hindu Shahi kingdom, which was the guarding gates of India, India's frontiers became defenseless. The inclusion of Punjab and Afghanistan in Ghazni's kingdom, it made the subsequent Muslim conquest of India comparatively easy. Muhammad Ghori. So the Ghoris started as vassals of Ghazni, but they became independent after the death of Muhammad. So taking advantage of the decline of Ghaznavid Empire, Muizzuddin Muhammad, he popularly known as Muhammad Ghori, he brought Ghazni under their control. And having made his position strong and secure at Ghazni, Muhammad Ghori turned his attention to India slowly. And unlike Muhammad of Ghazni, he wanted to conquer India and extend his empire in this direction. And in 1175, Muhammad Ghori, he captured Multan and occupied whole of the Sindh region. And in 1186, he attacked Punjab and he captured it from Khusro Malik and annexed it to his dominions. The annexation of Punjab, it carried his dominion eastward till the Satluj, and it led his invasion of Chauhan kingdom. The Battle of Tarain, it was around 1191 to 1192. So realizing their grave situation, the Hindu princes of North India, they formed a confederacy under the command of Prithviraj Chauhan. Prithviraj, he rose to the occasion and defeated Ghori in the Battle of Tarain near Delhi in 1191 AD. And after this incident, Muhammad Ghori felt greatly humiliated. So to avenge his defeat, he made a serious preparation and he gathered an army of about 1,20,000 men. He came with his large force to Lahore via Peshawar and Multan. He sent a message to Prithviraj asking him to acknowledge his supremacy and become a Muslim. But Prithviraj rejected this proposal and prepared to meet the invader. He gathered a large force consisting of 3 lakhs horses, 3,000 elephants and a large body of foot soldiers. Many Hindu Rajas and chieftains, they also joined him. In the ensuing second battle of Tarain in 1192, Muhammad Ghori thoroughly routed the army of Prithviraj Chauhan, who was captured and killed. And the second battle of Tarain, it was a decisive battle and it was a major disaster for the Rajputs. Their political prestige suffered a serious setback. The whole Chauhan kingdom now lay at the feet of the invader. The first Muslim kingdom was thus firmly established in India at Ajmer, and a new era in the history of India began from his invasion. And after his brilliant victory over Prithviraj at Tarain, Muhammad Ghori, he returned to Ghazni, leaving behind his favorite general Qutbuddin Aibak to make further conquest in India. And Aibak, he consolidated his position in India by occupying places like Delhi and Meerut. So in 1193, Qutbuddin Aibak prepared the ground for another invasion by Muhammad Ghori, and this invasion was directed against a Gahadwala ruler called Jayachandra. Kannauj was occupied by the Muslims after the Battle of Chandawar, and the Battle of Tarain and Chandawar contributed to the establishment of Turkish rule in India. Causes for the failure of Hindu kingdoms. The causes for the downfall of Hindu states, it has to be analyzed historically. The most important cause was that they lacked unity and they were divided by factions. The Rajput princes exhausted one another by their mutual conflicts. And secondly, many Hindu states were declining in power and their military methods were out of date. That means it was inferior to those of Muslim military methods. Indians, they continued to rely on elephants while the Muslims possessed a quick moving cavalry. The Muslim soldiers, they had a better organization and able leaders, and their religious zeal and their greed for the greater wealth of India, it provided stimulus to them. And among the Hindus, the duty of fighting, it was confined to a particular class called Kshatriyas. and moreover the Hindus were always on the defensive, which was always a weak position. So in the next session, let's discuss about Delhi Sultanate. Thank you.